Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, merry by name, merry by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokémon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. And this week, as every week, I very much hope my guest and I can make your day merry, because I have the pleasure of being joined by Joe Brown. Joe, how you doing?
Charlie, I'm having a great day. Thank you so much. I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's been a long time coming. Very excited. This day has finally arrived.
It certainly has been a long time coming, Joe. It was only a matter of time, of course, before I got you on the podcast, and it's wonderful to be able to feature you now. And as I was saying to you just before we started recording, we actually haven't had the opportunity to have a chat like this before, really. You know, it just so happens we've been ships in the night, not able to cast events together. Maybe at some point that will change, but for now, it's just wonderful to have you on the show. And for anyone who's not so familiar with you, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Joe Brown. I am a video game championship commentator for Pokemon, just like Charlie is, but for the North American team instead of EU. I've been doing commentary. I started playing VGC in 2014 and pretty much doing commentary since probably the end of 2015 or an early onset of 2016. Finally got picked up by the official team in 2020. So ever since then, I've had the fortune of working on official Pokemon streams and events and everything like that. I also do some commentary in some other games as well, like League of Legends, some One Piece trading card games sometimes as well. And then I have a regular job outside of the Pokemon world as well. We could probably get into a little bit later. Always love competitive Pokemon, and it's pretty much my life at this point.
Yeah, fantastic, Joe. And I cannot wait to take a deeper dive into all of these things. Shall we do this?
Yeah, listen, I was an early adopter of the Chazingdra cast, okay? I was watching those first couple episodes. I was in from the bit, so I'm ready for this moment.
Fantastic. Well, let's not keep you waiting any longer, Joe, and I can't wait to find out. So let's dive in. Let's get to know your life story and the 6 Pokemon on your dream team. What we're going to start with here, appropriately, is growing up.
Yes, I was back in the day, born in a log cabin in the woods. No, I'm just kidding. That's a very common American phrase, Charlie, for Abraham Lincoln, the president. If you didn't know, that's the story, the age-old adage. He was born in a log cabin. So a lot of Americans use that reference, just like Abraham Lincoln. Humble beginnings, let's say. No, I have an older brother and I have a twin sister. So I had some, he's only 2 years older, and obviously the twin is the exact same age. So I had siblings that I was growing up with of the same age, going through life together, and basically from a very early on age, I was always into video games. Like I truly think my earliest memory I can think of is playing when I was like maybe 4.5 or 5 years old. Was playing Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo. I think that's like the earliest memory I have of my life was playing that. So pretty much since my memory started to take form, I've had a controller in my hand playing video games, and growing up that was always my like saving grace. So whether it would be Pokemon or Mario Kart or Kingdom Hearts or any sports video games or anything, my parents would take me to Blockbuster every weekend to rent a video game and play it as much as humanly possible over the weekend before school started back up on Monday and we had to return it. So I pretty much don't really remember any part of life where I wasn't an avid gamer.
I love to hear you talk about Blockbuster, Joe. We did have that over in the UK as well.
Okay.
Oh, we missed Blockbuster.
Yes.
Renting those games, all those DVDs. I mean, back in the day, those VHSs, of course. And enjoying them, return them. A great thing, but alas, no longer with us. And what did you say? Yoshi's Secret Island was the first game?
No, just Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. That was the one with Baby Mario, and Yoshi has to try to get you from the beginning to end to keep Baby Mario safe.
I don't know why I just put secret in there. I was trying to add some spice, add some sauce to the game.
You were adding some hidden storyline, hidden meaning.
Exactly. Yeah, fascinating. Okay, when did Pokemon start to come into the picture?
Pretty much from the beginning. I remember getting Red and Blue with my brother, right? 1998, and then going to the movie theater to watch the first Pokemon movie, getting the Ancient Mew card, the promo card at the movie theater. I was always in on Pokemon. Me and my family. I think that was one thing I was very fortunate about, where there were other games with my mom, like I remember once I think I was 11 years old and rented a T for Teen game at Blockbuster, and she was furious because teenager is 13 and I'm 11, right? Oh, you're blah, blah, blah. But like, so she would be, my family would, try to be strict on those things, but when it came to Pokemon, it was never like other video games, like you had to work for it, or you had to, have good grades or whatever, but Pokemon was always just, yes. I was very fortunate with my mom that way, that every time Pokemon came out, she would buy us Red and Blue, and she bought us 2 copies of Yellow so we could each play Yellow, and then, Gold and Silver, so watching, probably burned a hole in my family TV watching the Pokemon 2000 movie so many times on that VHS tape. So I think that was probably one of the reasons I maintained such a strong connection to Pokemon with my whole life, is that like I was always, whether it was a Pokemon Stadium or XD Gale of Darkness, like any spin-off game, any movie, any of the anime, like my mom and my family, they were always fully in on supporting us playing Pokemon. So I really lucked out there.
Yeah, that is fortunate, absolutely. So incredible to you talking about that promo Mew car as well from the cinema. I remember those days. And Pokemon the movie 2000. Was it all of you siblings who were as invested in Pokemon as each other?
It was mainly my brother and I. My sister wasn't too into gaming, but it was really nice to have another person to battle against, to play through the games with, to like to trade our Machokes and Haunters to get the other versions or whatever, right? So we could always complete the I remember when my brother, because I think I had Red and he had Blue, and he did the Pokedex. He did all 150. We couldn't get under the truck to get Mew to get to 151, right? So when he got all 150 Pokemon in the Pokedex, it was like, it might as well have like been the coolest moment of my life at that point, because I helped him trade to get there, and in order to like fight off, and with every generation that came out with the 2 different games, we very early on established a system with my mom, so that way nobody could fight over if you like this box, this legendary more than this legendary or whatever, because he was older. The rule essentially after the first generation was he would get the first title and I would get the second. So like he would get Ruby, I would get Sapphire, he would get Diamond, I would get Pearl, right? And still to this day in our 30s, like every game, we did it with Scarlet and Violet. Like he got Scarlet, I got Violet. Like I didn't really want Shield. I thought Zacian looked way cooler than Zamazenta, but this decision I made 20 years ago, I'm gonna get Shield. I'm gonna get Mood. So we still hold true to. My brother was the one that I was always traveling with when I started. First playing in college, VGC competitively, going around to regionals, and he was always also a player. Like we would team build together, play test together, and travel together.
I love to hear that. Wow. And it was wonderful that you're honouring that tradition, that time-old tradition at that point. My final question for you on this point is does your, having got Pokemon Scarlet, I assume your brother still plays to some capacity, but is your brother still involved in the competitive sphere?
Not as often as we were. I mean, definitely he was playing back in the day before we even knew what VGC was, right? He would be in those like online forums where you'd have to like try to find a battle, and the Cerebi battle system where you try to link up with someone. Like some of these stuff that I really never even experienced back in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum. So like he was playing competitive singles, quote unquote, all the way back in like 2006, 2007, and like trying to EV training and breeding and everything like that. So he was the first competitive player of the two of us. I was just more of the massive Pokemon fan playing through the games. Like I probably beat Pokemon Yellow probably like 45 times in my life at this point. Like I would beat Yellow, I'd reset the save file, I'd go through it again, and then then I get to 6th grade and I'm like, I haven't played Pokemon Yellow in probably a year. Let me play through the game again, and then I ended up started speed running Pokemon Yellow at one point a couple of years ago too, just because I loved it so much. But he is the one when X and Y came out. And he had Mega Evolutions, and like it seemed, he had the punching bags with the EV training. If you remember that mini game, to make EV training a lot more fun. That was when I really first started to understand the competitive aspect of Pokemon, and that's where we dived in for our first regional in 2014 together.
Wow, it's wonderful that you're able to do that together as well. Well, now I've introduced that Pokemon side of things, seems like as good a time as any to introduce what's going to be the first Pokemon on your dream team. So as a reminder, everybody, the aim here is not for Joe to build the most competitively viable team if he doesn't want to. It's just the Pokemon that have been the most special to Joe over the years, and he can define that for himself in whichever way he would like. I have no idea what they are. Joe's chosen them in advance, so tell us, Joe, what's going to be Pokemon number 1?
So that first Pokemon for me is going to be Noctowl. For the first couple of generations, Noctowl was my favorite Pokemon. Like I said, I was playing all the games, and even as probably would have been 7 years old or whatever when Gold and Silver came out. Like even understanding as a young kid the adaptation from Red and Blue to Gold and Silver, and especially Crystal. Like, Crystal was a huge impact on me as a kid growing up. And like, okay, we went from Pidgeot, and now we have this Noctowl line, and we went from these Fire Water Grass starters to the Johto Fire Water Grass starters, right? And I'm like, okay, I understand this, and like, I just really fell in love with Noctowl immediately. One, it only had to evolve once to get to its coolest final form, instead of Pidgeot taking two evolutions to get there. And in the anime, you had the Golden Noctowl episode, right? So like, I've always been one of my favorite shinies. So those first couple generations, even playing in Pokemon like Stadium or like any type of game, if Noctowl was available, and to this day, pretty much I use Noctowl in Sword and Shield also. Like anytime it's in the regional decks, I will have a Noctowl on my team. It was dethroned eventually by another Pokemon that's going to be on this list as my favorite Pokemon, but for a good chunk of time, that sleepless bird, he was my guy.
Fascinating. Noctowl. I mean, I really thought that given that your journey started with Generation 1, you might be choosing your first partner Pokemon from Generation 1. What would that be?
So that would be Charizard, and that was probably the hardest decision. Charizard probably 7th on this team of 6. You know, he's on the outside looking in off stage. It's just for how much. Yeah, I'm not much of a Gen 1er in the sense of like, I only like these 151 Pokemon, but I do love, and as I said, the game I have played the most in my life is Pokemon Yellow, but like I don't really attach my favorite Pokemon to that original generation because now there's over 1,000 of them, so I don't think it's like I don't just have to be beholden to the decision I made, 25 years ago on Charizard. But I do love Charizard, but like if I did, even at the time, what I'll tell you, Charlie, the thing that hurt my love of Charizard to this day, and I'm still impacted by it, and this is a legitimately true story. I was at the schoolyard as a kid, as a youngster, and at the time, Zapdos was a legendary Pokemon. I told you my love of the Pokemon 2000 movie. And Charizard, everyone and their mother had a Charizard. It's just a starter Pokemon. Everyone could have access to it. But you had to work hard to get that Zapdos. And there was only one in your game, right? And at the time, at the school ground, I traded a Charizard card for a Zapdos. Because Zapdos was cooler and Zapdos was a legendary Pokemon. And who knows if that card would have been in good condition nowadays. But I did own a Charizard from the base set Charizard as a little 7-year-old that I traded away for a Zapdos. So I think subconsciously I'm punishing Charizard by putting him in the 7th slot for that decision I made 20 years ago.
Yeah, I've just got Charizard in my earpiece now and confirmed that he says he's tasted his own medicine and it's bitter. So, Joe, I think you really ultimately won there. Yeah, of course, that original Charizard card is going to be worth a huge amount of money these days. But hey, listen, the heart wants what it wants, and I think we each have our own tale of brushes with fate.
It was
with
a legendary.
These original Charizard
How is
cards.
that supposed to know that Zapdos would outlast Charizard?
Exactly. No, we totally understand, Joe. Totally. Final question for you on this is. Do you back yourself to claim some kind of victory? It could be a local, it could be an online competition, whatever, with Noctowl.
No, I've never used Noctowl in VGC. I'm not crazy enough. However, I did when Sword and Shield came out. We were trying to make it work because everybody was trying to make every Pokemon work with Dynamax, right? And I know, particularly being the normal flying type, that there was some interaction that Noctowl had the benefit of compared to other Pokemon that technically doing a was it Max Skyfall and Max Strike was Max from the normal Airstream, and the flying or Airstream. Thank you, yeah. Max Airstream. Thank you. That was more it was like statistically more effective to do a +1 speed and a -1 speed to their team than doing 2 max airstreams or 2 max strikes. Where I forget the exact number. So like I was spouting that number to all my friends that tell if you want your tailwind, say you're using Togekiss like a mat, like everybody else. So technically, Noctowl is more efficient at speed control than Togekiss is, So I tried to make it work, but really it was just its design. I thought it was a cool Pokemon, and the shiny was like super important to me from the anime.
No, fair enough. I love Max Skyfall as well. Just sub in a Bond movie name in there. Pokemon, why not? Yeah, that's also how it could be a name in itself, like Maximilian Skyfall. Yeah. Well, if there is one of you out there, then we'd love to hear. But yeah, no, makes total sense. Well, Noctowl, welcome to the team, and everybody, if you're enjoying this chat with Joe, please do like and subscribe. It would mean a huge amount. Goes such a long way. Work very hard on this podcast, but we've got so much more conversation to have. So we'll swoop from there now over into your passion for sport.
Yes, absolutely. So besides video games and Pokemon in specific, ever since I was a kid, I was always a huge sports fan, and it's just kind of like a encyclopedia of knowledge around sports, like learning about every sport that I could and learning how to play and watching, sports documentaries with my dad. Like I'm a big New York Yankees fan for baseball, and the Yankees TV channel they would have these documentary videos called Yankeeographies, which were biographies of famous Yankee players, right? And I would literally just like on repeat, I would watch these guys from 1930s, 1940s, like even to the modern day. Like I watched those documentaries so many times that I would have as much knowledge about every, Yankee legend as possible. And I took that love and passion into playing actual sports, playing baseball, playing basketball growing up, playing sports video games like Madden and 2K and MLB and everything like that. For most of my early years, I was so passionate about sports that I, kind of never crossed my mind that I would, I watch these, I'm going to be a baseball player, right? Or I'm going to be a professional basketball player or whatever. That it never really crossed my mind until you start to get to the age where you're not good enough to keep up with everyone else, that you have to make a pivot, right? And that happened for me in middle school. I was on a baseball team, and I know you guys over on the other side of the pod don't have baseball the same way as we do, so I won't get too into the details of how it worked. But I had a coach that just like kind of, I don't know. Looking back on it, the way he was speaking to a 12-year-old was actually crazy. Like, I had a bad game. I struck out to end the game with the bases loaded, and we lost. And then he was like, you know what? This probably isn't for you. Like, in front of the whole team. He was like, you should stop playing baseball. Like, and like just crushing my life when my whole dream was to be a baseball player, right? And so in that moment, like, that was one of the most devastating moments of my life. Like, this adult tells me I suck, right? And I give credit to my mom and I can tie it to a story that happened to my dad when he was a kid. So when my dad, growing up in the 60s, he was a huge music fan. For how much I love sports, he was all into music with record players and going to concerts and stuff. And he had that British invasion in the 60s, coming over, which made him a massive music fan. That when he was in middle school, high school, he wanted to be a musician. He wanted to learn how to play music and be in a band, just like the Beatles, just like the Who, and he was trying to learn guitar, and he was struggling with it, right? And so his mom, for Christmas one year, she bought him a bass guitar. She had no knowledge on music or instruments or anything. But she bought a bass, which has 4 strings compared to 6. And her simplistic idea behind it was like, well, if you're struggling with a guitar, this guitar only has 4 strings instead of 6, right? And so maybe it's going to be easier for you to learn in on. And he became a bassist his whole life. He had a regular job, but like traveling around and being in bands and playing music, that was his main passion his whole life. And he did that for from when he was like 16 onward, basically his whole life. So I had a very similar experience after that baseball moment, right? After that coaching moment, where my mom, I was obsessed with the Yankees, obsessed with sports, and the broadcaster for the Yankees, the commentator, if we will, his name was Michael Kay. And so I would watch him every Yankee game. I was always obsessed, and he was like my big influence growing up. And so my mom, kind of similar idea to my dad and his mom, she was like, well, why would you don't have to play for the Yankees. Is that why don't you just become like Michael Kay? because a player has to retire after like 15 years, but Michael Kay gets to be a Yankee forever. He gets to be a Yankee every day in his 50s and 60s, right? And so it was that moment that I was like, okay, that's right. I don't have to play a sport in order to be a part of sports, right? I can try to get into broadcast. I can try to, have my impact and have my career in sports outside of just being a player. So that was like a big moment, like a lightning, going on, a light bulb, I should say, going off in my head to like pivot from trying to play sports to trying to work within sports.
Wow. What a heartwarming tale. That's a movie right there. And I would pay to see that movie. That's fascinating. I am very surprised and very sorry to hear about those crushing words that your baseball coach said to you as a young child. I mean, that's awful. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, Charlie, like I did have a great family. I had a great support system of relatives and my parents and brother and sister and everything. But like, it was kind of tough out there as a youngster. I wasn't the coolest kid. I wasn't had to deal with a lot of stuff. When I was young. And so that was kind of, especially in elementary school and middle school, and that coaching moment was kind of the pinnacle of all the hardships that I had to deal with at that age. So made me a better person now for it, but to this day I can't stand people that act the way that coach did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the fact that your mum sort of adapted that and channeled it into a far more positive message is obviously an upside from that, and it really paved the way for what happened next in terms of trying to get into broadcasting. And at this point, you're massively into sports. Is Pokemon still there just as much as it was before? Is it taking more of a backseat?
No, so it wasn't, I would say in that time in my life, it really wasn't just Pokemon, it was just video games in general, right? And it still was massively Pokemon. Like I was playing every game and, trying to catch them all, and on release playing every Pokemon and still watching every single Pokemon movie. I want to say through like the Giratina movie, I want to say might have been the one, like or I was watching every movie on release, like so excited for it. So I was still all about it, but it was expanding my horizons into other video games and into other entertainment things. But Pokemon was always a constant in my life. Like I say, I was very fortunate that when I was growing up, Charlie, you hear, I'm sure people come on your show all the time, talk about, there was that part of childhood where Pokemon wasn't cool anymore. Like, I stopped playing, or I had to hide that I was playing Pokemon because, everybody would have made fun of me or something like that. And I was very fortunate that where I grew up and the schools I went to and the kids that I interacted with, like, Pokemon was never not cool. Like, we were literally 17 years old in high school playing, Black and White or, before the Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and, like, everybody in the school was still playing Pokemon, and they're like, oh, you used to get made fun of if you watched anime. But, like, no, like, everyone in my school, we all loved anime. We were all talking about Death Note or Bleach or, or Dragon Ball Z or whatever. So I think that's what helped me, is I was very fortunate in the environment that I grew up in, that I was able to still be a Pokemon and a fan and a gamer and a nerd, because I probably would have had to pivot out like everyone else, who has that story, but I didn't really experience that.
That is really wonderful to hear, and a very rare experience indeed. I'm very pleased that you had that support network around you as well. Well, having now gone back to Pokemon, let's now introduce the second Pokemon on your dream team. So who's going to be there alongside Noctowl? So
I'll go with the Pokemon that dethroned Noctowl as my favorite Pokemon, and that is Lucario. So I want everybody to flash back to like 2006, okay? And we're 3 generations in, we're getting Diamond and Pearl. We got a brand new movie, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Like, this guy's cool enough to have a dual header title with Mew, right? One of the coolest Pokemon ever. He's wearing the cool hat and everything. He talks in the movie. Like, Lucario is just the coolest Pokemon ever. And then Lucario gets brought into Super Smash Brothers, and in Diamond and Pearl, you can only get him through the egg. So I'm like, oh, Lucario's a legendary Pokemon. Like, I'm not the only person that at the time thought Lucario was a legendary Pokemon. Forgive me, Charlie. He was speaking in the movie, and you can only get one. I was like, all right, kind of tracks as a legendary Pokemon. And so he dethroned Noxel as my favorite Pokemon for a very long time. I just think his design is cool. The movie was cool. Being in Smash, like, super popular. I know, but, liking Charizard and Lucario. I know I'm not very original here on the list. But the other reason that I have Lucario on the list, this is my first VGC story, is when I started playing competitively in 2014 and 2015. I'm from New Jersey. I went to college in Connecticut, and there were a lot of locals in Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn, Premier Challenge League, where we had a lot of Worlds qualified players. Easily New York and New Jersey, the tri-state area was the strongest competitive scene for VGC in the country. So I was thrown right into the jump. I'm out here with my at the low tables of my 70-player Premier Challenge in Brooklyn with my Mega Pincer team that I thought I was cooking on, and there's like 9 Worlds qualified players also in the room that are, I very quickly on, I had to learn how to be good at the game. And the only local event that I ever got top cut in was a counter meta team with a Mega Lucario, because we all remember 2015 and we remember Chalk. And so I used a special Nasty Plot, Aura Sphere, Vacuum Wave, Lucario with adaptability, right, to counter Mega Kangaskhan, have a fighting type hit for Heatran and stuff like that. And that was the only top cut I ever had at one of the Brooklyn events, and I was very, very proud of it. Like, I think I started to gain people's respect that weekend for this really cool counter team that I made. And the funny thing, like, the what could have been, Charlie, is I was in college. I took the train down from New Haven, and I was EV training on the train ride down to Brooklyn. And I did everything. I did my speed. I did my special attack. Got the whole thing ready. And I didn't know until after the event was over that apparently I had forgotten to save while on the train. So I made top cut of this event with a 252 speed, 0 special attack Mega Lucario. I only had 252 EVs, and they were all in speed. And my boy was hitting so hard with Nasty Plot adaptability that even with no special attack investment, I was still made top cut. So
that is incredible. And for anyone unfamiliar, EV's effort values, the training that you can put into a Pokemon's stats to optimize them. Wow. That's another movie. What an incredible tale. The fact that you went all the way. I mean, if it
who knows what could have been exactly. If I had,
Yeah. Well, but even so, I hope that you're thinking you wouldn't change a thing, because obviously we wouldn't have wanted you to have finished worse at that event, and it's very cool that you were using one of your favourites at the time as well. I was going to share a story with you as well, Joe, which was that in the this current Pokemon season at the time of recording, 2025, in the Stuttgart Regional Championships, I went to compete. Now, this is Regulation Set H. This means that the power level is lower, and suddenly all these Pokemon are viable that weren't before. My favourite Pokemon is Kingdra, and leading up to the event, I was like, should I just do it? Should I just bring Kingdra? I ended up bringing the team that won in, I think it was Sacramento the week before. And then lo and behold, who should go and win a regional championship with Kingdra this season in Toronto but Wolf Glick? And I just look back on that and I think, you idiot. Just go with your heart. Just go with what's fun. And as it was the case for you, Joe, you brought the Pokemon that you enjoyed using, you brought one of your favourite Pokemon, and it played out. And in the immortal words of Karen, in the Johto Elite Four, truly skilled trainers try and win with their favourites. So, Joe, you are teaching us all, and thank you very much indeed for doing that.
Words to live by. I legitimately, I agree with Karen to an extent.
Yes?
Now, unfortunately, if your favorite Pokemon is Applin, then you're going to have some trouble, right? So, to an extent, I do believe that Karen is correct.
Yeah. Or like when you're trying to channel those words and you talk to players and they're like, "Oh, my favorite Pokemon's Incineroar," and it's like, "Okay, sure, whatever." You've just got the cheat code.
Yeah.
Lucario, welcome to the team. Now we will Aura Sphere from there over to high school and college.
Yes. So once I was in high school, I would say things definitely got a lot better in life. I became more free. I didn't have to deal with a lot of the early on, bullying and other psychological things I had going on that I had to deal with as a kid. So high school was just a way better experience. It felt more free. I went to a high school you had to apply to get in. It was a vocational high school that essentially it was almost kind of college-esque, which I'm not sure if they have this in the UK or not, but the high school, you essentially had a focus on a trade while you were also doing high school. So that could have been in in science or in IT or in for example, like there was like 15 different tracks you could go down. And at first I did culinary was what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a cook in the beginning, but I had transitioned over my sophomore year to multimedia, to digital design, graphic design, video editing and things like that. And from that point on, I was very much focused on production and creating content and creating. Basically, I wanted to entertain people, and that was like the way that I could do it in school. Our school had a morning announcements program where you'd have students every day, and you'd have to edit the video the day before for the upcoming events, and we could like create these skits, and I learned how to use Adobe Premiere and learned how to edit and everything like that. And I was very focused. I had a great teacher that was like very good at inspiring us to be creative, to find creative solutions, and to for our sketches or some of the things to make them more entertaining. And in high school, that was where, so sophomore year through, I was very much into Photoshop, very much into Premiere, very much into just like creating, writing storylines, writing sketches, writing different things. And I really just loved movies, honestly, too. So I loved that aspect of I literally had like an existential experience, Charlie, seeing the movie Inception in theaters. So it actually just passed the 15-year anniversary of Inception, which makes me feel old. Wow. I just want to throw it out there. There's people winning, probably seniors world champions, probably going to be younger than Inception at Worlds this summer, which makes me feel old. But Inception came out on my birthday in July. Like I was just, I was in the theater. I was blown away, and I left that theater being like, "This is what I want to do." Like this feeling that I have right now. I want to entertain and inspire people the way that this film has for me, or other movies that are in my top movies like Good Will Hunting or It's a Wonderful Life, or like so many other things that have made me feel excited or like taught me a life lesson or entertained me when I was down in the dumps. I want to do that for other people. And so went from those high school years of learning how to edit into college and studying communication and working for my school's communication department, editing videos and everything like that. And really, like, it was, I would say, those early years, those elementary and middle school years, those struggles that I dealt with really was night and day with high school, and then specifically into college, of how freeing and how much more fun I was having in life to say from those experiences, that like they completely changed me as a person. I had so much fun, but I never like stopped with that passion for sports and the passion for entertainment. Like my goal was always, once I knew I wasn't going to be a baseball player, right? I wasn't going to be a professional sports player. It was like, how can I entertain people? What can I do as a career that adds entertainment to the world for people who are down in the dumps or people who are having negative feelings like I was at the time? I want to try to inspire them and make their day better. And all the way through graduating college, that's always still to this day is my focus on trying to entertain people.
Very inspiring. Well, I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about the bullying that you experienced back in the day. Is that, I mean, I realised that was in the topics that you sent over to me. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that front?
No, I mean, it's kind of tough to get into. It's also, it's not like a fun topic, which not everything in life has to be fun, right? So trying to, I think I just look back at those days of like dreading waking up in the day, dreading knowing I would have to then go spend 8 hours at school and just have my life kicked in every day, and getting in fights and getting suspended, and having a lot of psychological issues pertaining to that time, feeling like the adults in the room didn't have my back, the adults in the room weren't doing what was right, that I prefer to, and in life I do, not trying to push stuff down, but instead of focusing on those negative days, I do highlight those positives. Like I found myself in high school with a great support system and great friends, and particularly in college as well, changing my outlook on life, changing my perspective, and being a lot happier in the world in those young adult the era for myself. I'd prefer to focus on those positives than dwell in the early negatives.
Good, yeah. I'm really pleased that you did ultimately find that support network, and you found your calling as well. I mean, the fact that Inception came out on your birthday, incredible. Given that you were enjoying, making these videos, doing announcements, and the fact that you were such a big fan of films as well, was there any part of you that wanted to lean into acting?
Ooh, that's good. I did like school musicals and things. I was not one of the singers, so I was, I was the tree in the background, right, as the cliche goes. I did my big break in middle school. We did Cinderella. My sister was the fairy godmother. She was a good singer, so she had a big role in Cinderella for the school's production. And my role, I think I was like the prince's assistant, the guy trying to help find the person with the slipper, right, the proper foot for the slipper. And I think I had like 3 lines or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna nail these 3 lines. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna get the biggest laugh. I mean, and like I did at the time. I got a really big laugh on, like, I was hyper focused on my 3 lines. And I think for my minor 5% importance role, I think I did crush it. But for acting, I definitely thought about it, but like I really did prefer script writing. I did prefer directing and editing and everything way more than acting, because it was like another area of like I can control what I do. Like as an actor, you never know if you're going to get the part or not. But if you write your own script, if you are your own director, right, you can ensure that you hire yourself for your project.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. Very interesting. Yeah, and your editing experience too. It's not a combination I think I've come across too often in terms of enjoying being a presenter as much as you're enjoying doing the behind the scenes stuff. Is a really interesting combination, especially given that you obviously enjoy being in front of a camera now doing the casting. So fascinating to track that through. But now it's time to discover what's going to be Pokemon number 3 on your dream team alongside Noctowl and Lucario.
It's a tough call. I feel like you hear this from all your guests. Cutting 1,000 Pokemon down to 6 is definitely tough. And you know how our brains work, Charlie. I'm like, all right, what's my type? What's my matchup covered? Or I already have a water type. Or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to think. But our VGC trying to make a well-rounded team, but it doesn't have to here. I think for this one, I'll go with Suicune. So I did mention earlier how important Pokemon Crystal was to me as a kid. I mean, that was a big deal. That was the first time that you had a girl avatar that you could play as in Crystal, and ever since Crystal I've always just chose the girl avatar in every Pokemon game ever since. And I thought Suicune's storyline, like seeing how the legendary beasts were used in Gold and Silver and then implemented Suicune into that story with Crystal, and then obviously the third movie with Entei, like that whole legendary trio was so cool to me. And like forever, one of my brother's favorite Pokemon is Suicune as well. So like we've always had a love in this household. We've always loved Suicune, right? And then in 2015, that would have been my second season playing VGC. We went down to a regional in Virginia. For any old VGC heads out there, you're gonna remember this as the Barn, which was literally an event, a regional location in Virginia every year that was literally in a barn. Like on the other side, there'd be the pigs and everything. Like they would do like I think different races and other competitions down there, like as a convention center. But then we would also hold the VGC and TCG events at that barn in Virginia, and that was only my second regional I'd ever been to. It was freezing cold, probably like 5 degrees. This is in the dead of winter, the whole weekend. And at that event I had used a choice band Diggersby on my team, because technically the choice band and the huge power or whatever meant it was like, I think it was like a 5% stronger earthquake than Landorus's earthquake or something. So I was like, statistically, Diggersby's going to do more damage than Landorus. It was just like a silly decision. But I did have a lot of fun in that at that event. I think it went 4 and 5. It's not like I won anything, but I did have a really fun team there. But I've always been a much better team builder than a player in VGC, and that still holds true to this day. And my brother, who is the competitive guy, he's the one with the he would just he's the player that like give me a team and then he'll play the team, right? He doesn't really want to build. He doesn't want to think about the matchups or the EV spreads and anything like that. So I had built a team for him, and similar to I talked about that Mega Lucario team that I used, that was a counter meta team. Like it had Rotom Heat on it to deal with Amoonguss, and it had like so many other threats on it, like from our local scene, that we made this counter meta team where, okay, everybody is using Landorus. So we had a Life 4 Bisharp on the team with Defiant, where +1 Defiant would Sucker Punch, knocked out every Landorus. So it was essentially a non-existent losing matchup. Basically, if the other person had a Landorus that activated Defiant, that Sucker Punch was going to take out at least 2 Pokemon before that Bisharp got knocked out. And so the whole team as a whole was really fun. We put so much work into it. We had a mixed Mega Salamence as well on that team that just was so awesome. But the crux of it was Suicune. At the time, nobody would, I won't say nobody, but Suicune was not a very popular Pokemon. We were using it as a Tailwind setter and using Scald, and I just think as a whole, Suicune was a very underrated Pokemon, specifically in that format. And I think a lot of my brother went 7-2 in that event, and one of his losses, funny enough, was to Wolf Glick. He lost to Wolf. That was the event for where Wolf had the Mega Banette, Prankster Pain Split, Leaf Seed Venusaur team for any very old VGC players, or he won that regional with a very big stall event. And my brother actually, one of his 2 losses was to Wolf winning that event. And so even to this day, we still talk about how we made the perfect call for that event. That was the correct meta team. We had Terrakion on it. We had it was just the coolest team ever. And if he didn't run into Wolf's Mega Banette, who knows what could have happened on his run with the Suicune team. So because of Suicune's design, I would say because of how awesome Crystal was, and because of my fond memories of using it in that event, that made me feel good. That made me feel confident as a team builder. Okay, even if I went 4-5 with my silly Diggersby team, at least the team that I built for my brother, he went 7-2 with and lost to the guy that won the entire event, right? So I felt confident as a team builder that I have what it takes to make well-rounded teams.
Yeah, fascinating to hear that that's where you think your skill set lies, and great to hear about all of these crazy Pokemon picks that you had going on as well. And you know what, maybe some nights that Suicune haunts Wolf as well. Yes, Wolf ultimately won, but maybe, you never know. Maybe
he destroyed my brother. It wasn't even close.
Okay, I'm trying to give you some credit here, Joe, but hey, fair enough. Yeah, and of course, Wolf is someone else that featured on the podcast too, and that link will be in the description below if you want to have a listen to my chat with Wolf. Okay, Suicune, and I love Crystal too. I mean, Generation 2 is my favourite, so I'll love to hear that too. Suicune, welcome to Joe's Dream Team, and now we'll tailwind from there into your professional work experience.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I do a lot of Pokemon events, but it's not my full-time job, my full-time career. In college, I did a lot of video production and editing, as I talked about earlier. And right out of college, pretty much I'd say 6, maybe 7 months out of college, I got a job at Major League Baseball in New York City, working as a video editor. So, the same old adage, if I can't play baseball, I might as well join baseball, right? I might as well join the league. And I was very fortunate to get that job as a production assistant out of college, because I had to find a job. Basically, after 7 months of graduating, I needed to make an income somehow, and it just, all it takes is the right person at the right time for your application to go across the desk where they have thousands of people applying. So I had a great interview. I lived close enough. I was only a half hour from New York City, so that also helped compared to some of the other applicants. So I was able to commute into work every day. And so that was 2016 was my first year working at Major League Baseball. And I learned a lot, kind of. It's a big, 10 billion, 11 billion, 18 billion, whatever, how much money they make every year. There's a reason for it. There is a process, a churn and burn to a large corporation like Major League Baseball, and you learn very quickly on how to adapt, or you're not going to survive that type of environment. But I was very fortunate that I was a very skilled editor from my high school experience and from my college experience of straight up just 4 years working for the school's communication department, editing videos and editing things for the school, that I had a huge leg up over the other production assistants that had just started. They were kind of, we all just got out of college. We're all 22, 23 years old, but they were just trying to learn how Adobe Premiere worked, trying to learn how to edit. And like, I was from the jump, I just had so much more experience and so much knowledge that literally 2 weeks in from being from when I started, I was now teaching the other PAs how to edit things and like guiding them through. And the supervisor saw that. So like 2 weeks in, I had actually been bumped up to a producer editor, which was the next level above a production assistant, which was funny though, because in that season, 2016, they only have a certain amount of money, a certain amount of positions for each department, right? And so I was hired, and I was to be accounted for as a production assistant for the 2016 season. So the higher ups kind of had to have this back and forth conversation, like how can he split time as a PA and then also as an editor, like between the two different departments, so that kind of suffering from success a little bit in that scenario. I had to do two roles, but it was worth, like I was willing to do it. I was all in. I was working huge shifts. I was doing what I love, playing watching baseball, editing baseball for a living, making content, like making viral social media clips. Like there was one clip, Charlie, of, you don't have to know baseball to appreciate this storyline. There was a boyfriend who was proposing to his girlfriend in the stands at Yankee Stadium. And as he went down on the knee, and the camera, it was all set up and everything. It was live on TV and the camera feed in the stadium and everything. Like, it was all planned. As he went to kneel, he dropped the wedding ring. And the whole stadium saw it. And then everybody, like, you'd never think that, humanity at its best, they all work together. Everybody in that area was throwing the popcorn bags. Like, everybody was trying to find this wedding ring, right? This engagement ring, I should say. And so, like, it's like 5 minutes later, the announcers, Michael K was a part of it as the Yankee broadcast. They're like, oh man, this guy's in so much trouble. This is a bad start. They're like this. Oh, we're everybody. There's 45,000 people all rooting for this guy to find this ring, or this is the worst engagement proposal of all time. And they find it. He lifts it up. He shoots in the air, and it was literally like the team had just won the World Series. It was like it was 45,000 people in unison with the camera on him, finding it. The new fiance was crying. She says yes. Everybody comes together, and I had to edit that clip, this 5-6 minute sequence, into a 30-second sequence to be put on social media. And that clip on Facebook, I think it got like 5 million views or something like that. And I was sending it to everybody, and I'd have friends like, oh, did you see this? It's like, not only did I see this, but I edited that clip that you're sending to me, And that was one of those experiences that I had early on, where you talked about, you don't see a combination between between editing and storytelling, and the acting, or my on-camera experience of entertainment compared to the editing world. I actually, from an early point, understood that combination of editing, Charlie, about the storytelling that you can make while editing, deciding which audio to include, which lines to include, which shots, which camera angles and replays to include in that highlight package to make it more entertaining from the viewer's perspective. And that big moment, like that was one of my first viral moments that I had in the company, really helped solidify that. Like, no, I love doing this. I love this storytelling, and it's also sports. It's kind of combining both of my worlds in one.
Can you imagine if she said no?
Oh my god! I think she would have been booed out of the stadium for sure.
Yeah. Probably someone else would have just hopped in her place and said, "Look, I'll marry you." I'm sure.
I feel so bad. Yeah.
Oh my goodness me! What an incredible tale, and yeah, just to have that validation of that clip doing so well, and just to be able to witness these stories, and the fact that Michael K, who's been there for so many years, someone you've looked up to for so many years, is part of that clip as well.
Right.
That's a wonderful tale. So it's also incredible how it was just leaning into your passions when you were younger that ultimately, unbeknownst to you at the time, paved the way for you doing this job that you enjoyed so much and thrived so much in. So, I hope that's a lesson to everyone watching and listening, to just lean into the things that you enjoy, and who knows where you will end up. So, specifically your role at the company, is it still to this day, is to edit clips like that?
So I was at MLB for 6 years. I left in 20 at the beginning of 2022. So I worked 6 seasons. I'll say it's kind of hard because it's a seasonal job, right? You start in March when spring training starts, and you pretty much go through November when the World Series ends. But at the time, the digital media company that owned the MLB's website also owned the NHL's website. So effectively would just get transitioned from working at MLB to working at NHL for the winter, and then come back to baseball. Come back to baseball when spring training would start. So I've done a lot of stuff, and I still do sports to this day. But I've worked for Major League Baseball. I've worked for NHL, worked for hockey as well. I've worked for NBC Sports in the Olympics. I've covered 2 Olympics as a video producer and editor. I didn't get to travel. I was in Connecticut. I was in Stamford, Connecticut, their home base. But I did work the Beijing Olympics and work the Paris Olympics last summer. And I think as a whole, so I have over a decade of experience as a video producer editor in sports, working for a bunch of different things. And I would say it is a very cutthroat world. Like, for anyone who you have to hack it. You have to be able to handle how tough and how stressful, and you sometimes will just have a 13-hour day that you have to get through, of so much work and so many things need to get done. And if you are able to get through, and you are able to handle, and you are able to hack it, as I said, like, you can withstand. It is a really cool experience that, not just for your own self-satisfaction, but every party you go to, or every family gathering you go to, you got the one uncle, the one cousin that's like, man, you work for Major League. Oh, do you know Derek Jeter? Do you know, like, all the simple thing? Do you know LeBron James? You work the Olympics or whatever, right? So it is a cool job on top of it, but it is quite stressful. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. But the people that can make it through, you can succeed and you can thrive.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you say that. And I remember you posting, now that you mention it, last summer, that you were doing that work on the Paris Olympics, and really, really fascinating. Okay, well, now we'll go from there into discovering who's going to be Pokemon number 4 on your dream team, alongside Noctowl, Lucario, and Suicune.
All right, so this one, it's going to be my good paper boy, and that is Kartana. Kartana in Sun and Moon, there was that 3-year stretch of 2017, 2018, and 2019. There was not a single team that I played in an official event or a Premier Challenge or whatever that did not have a Kartana on it. Its speed was incredible. Its attack boosting on Beast Boost was incredible. Its Sacred Sword to beat the other Kartanas on the other side was incredible. I loved Kartana so much and there's not a lot of, historically, not a lot of great offensive grass types in VGC, right? So that was one of the things that really drew me to it. And then even in Sword and Shield, I was using Dynamax Kartana on a lot of teams as well. I just think it's a great Pokemon. But the story I tie it to was the 2017 Memphis Regional Championships, where I went as a player. At that point, I was already building my commentary career. I was doing as many local tournaments as I could and trying to travel around and do as much commentary as possible for VGC. And I kind of spitefully just had an offhanded comment at an event once where, back in the day, in that scene, it's a lot better. It's a lot more welcoming now, but you kind of would have to justify your opinions in that area. Let's just say you'd have to justify your opinions with what your record was at the event, or how many championship points you had, or how many times you qualified for Worlds. Like, you couldn't just say, I think, I don't know, Mega Sceptile was good, or whatever, right? You'd have to say that and then say, I'm also 4-0 at this event. Like, people would not listen to your opinion in that area unless you were a good player, which is very tough to get into, to try to express yourself and have conversations with people, but then just be like, well, you're 2-2 right now, so what do you know, right? And at that, I had heard an offhanded comment from a player. It was like, well, you're not even good at this game, right? From like one thing because they were a world's qualified player, and I had it lit a fire within me. I'm very reactionary in this way, Charlie. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, you tell me I can't. Like the coach said, you tell me I can't do this, I'm going to do this. You tell me when I was at MLB, one of the supervisors really did not like me, and I was like, all right, you don't like, all right, I'm gonna prove to you, I'm gonna be the best editor you've ever seen. And I moved up in 2 weeks, like I said. So I'm very spiteful in this way, but I think it's a positive spite, Charlie. I think it's like, I'm going to prove to myself and to you that I can do this. So that player who said I can't play the game, I spent as much time, I knew Memphis was coming up, I was playing every day, working with friends, working with teams, like trying to make the best team, and I did. Now, not really, because I didn't win, but it felt like the best team I'd ever built, and it was a Protect the Tapu Fini composition, where it had choice specs Tapu Fini. Obviously, Ryota had won the World Championships with choice specs Tapu Fini, so I knew it was a viable strategy. And I had Alolan Marowak for Lightning Rod, Misty Seed, Mandibuzz to boost special defense, and also have Tailwind to make my specs Tapu Fini faster. The Kartana that I talked about, a couple other Pokemon. Like, it was 5 Pokemon dedicated. Alolan Ninetales, setting up screens to make it take hits better. 5 Pokemon dedicated to making Tapu Fini work. But really, it was a Kartana team, because Kartana was the one, that was, doing all the damage. Like, the Tapu Fini would do Muddy Water, and it would get Pokemon in range for Kartana to get the knockouts to start the Beast Boost activating, right? Or start them rolling in and make the... and that first event, I started 3-0. I won over Tolar Webb, former, world champion in the seniors division. To this day, still one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. Even in that round, he was like super happy. He liked my team. It was just like so cool that I played a famous player and I happened to win that match. And then I played against Alex Underhill, who was another, regional champion, one of the nicest people. And in the end, I had one really bad matchup that cost me. I was very close to, being on pace, and I lost to a really bad matchup with a choice scarf Nihiligo with acid spray, and then a choice specs Tapu Koko that just destroyed my whole team. I had no prep for it at all, and I lost to it 2 consecutive rounds to take me out of top cut contention, right? And I was like, oh man. But in theory, if I didn't face that one team, I had felt so proud of myself for proving to myself, even for that person, if they had an offhanded comment that I don't play, I can't play or whatever, that even if I didn't win and I had that one bat, I proved that I could, if I put the time together, if I made the right team call, I do have the potential. So even though I didn't win in Memphis that weekend, it still overall was just a fantastic time. One of the best cities I've been to, had so much fun with my friends and everything. That overall was a very positive experience. And the main reason was the Kartana, like I said. The MVP of the team, even if it was built around Tapu Fini and playing Kartana in every single team. I wish it was around right now, Charlie, because these Fluttermanes are acting up. You know what I mean? They need a little smart strike.
I know what you mean. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, Kartana, one of the Ultra Beasts Pokemon from a different dimension that we don't have access to currently in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Thinking about the types that you've got so far, so we've got Steel and Fighting with Lucario, we've got Steel and Grass with Kartana, we've got Water with Suicune, and then the first Pokemon that you chose, Noctowl, Normal and Flying. So yeah, we've got some diversity here. Quick question on this point: are you by this point in your Pokemon career, are you still enjoying just playing the base games as they are, or is it very much more now the competitive side?
No, it's pretty much all in on competitive. I think with X and Y, I was still casual, and then with the Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I was playing VGC, but I was still enjoying the game, from both, still learning how to get good to play VGC effectively. But when from Sun and Moon onward, everything was not okay. Well, not that Toucannon looks looks cool or whatever. What are its stats? What's its ability? What's its attack? You know what I mean? So Sun and Moon onward, I was no longer just enjoying cute designs of Pokemon or thinking a Pokemon was cool, so I'm going to use it. It was all about what their stats were and what their abilities and everything, their potential.
I see, yeah. And it's wonderful that you're able to find that justification for yourself. That, yeah, hey, that guy made that unkind comment, but you were able to channel that, again, in a positive way, and it paid dividends for your playing. So, Kartana, welcome to the team. Now, very appropriately teeing that up there, Joe, because we're going to talk about VGC.
Yes, so now we can get into the VGC the early beginning. So as I said, I started playing in 2014, and that first season, that pretty much first full season, I was just a player. You know, I was still in college. I was still trying to make it work and come down to Brooklyn or come down, you know, playing in New Jersey, Premier Challenger, MSS, you know, when I was home for school or whatever. And then 2015 Worlds, I'd graduated that spring of 2015, and I went to Boston Worlds with my brother. That was the first ever World Championships I was able to go to. It was just like the coolest experience in the world. I think to this day, maybe it's the nostalgia of being my first Worlds, but you talk to a lot of other people that went to Boston, and it really was a great atmosphere. It was a great Worlds overall. I had, unbeknownst to me at the time, on the Sunday, I can't remember if it was the Boston Open or if it was just like another challenge on the Sunday that was a VGC event. I had actually faced off against Naoto Mizubuchi, who got top 4 at Worlds that year and was a future world champion in 2019. And I actually took a photo with him, and to this day, like it's still one of the coolest like photos of, you know, I'm holding up my Pikachu's, giving it a thumbs up. I'm like, dude, I met a world champion before he was a world champion, you know. So like that was when Pokémon Tournament had the demos and the arcade and like Boston was just awesome. And then we get to Championship Sunday, we get to the Machampion, right, with the video that any competitive fans would hopefully have seen at this point, where it's happening, the seniors finals match where Machamp took over Boston, the entire, like, for how exciting Masters was. The big story out of that Championship Sunday was definitely the Machamp and seniors. And when I was sitting in the crowd and hearing the roars and hearing all that environment and listening to the casters, and I got to meet Jay Witz, I got to meet Shady Penguin, I got to, like, you know, just have these cool experiences. It was in that moment I was like, all right, I don't want to play VGC anymore. Not that I was going to stop playing. It's not. I don't want to be a VGC player. I don't want to be a world champion. I want to be on that stage. Like I saw them on stage. I saw, you know, so Scott Glaza and you know, and Shady Penguin and Justin Flynn and Dwee and the whole crew and everything, right? And I was like, I want to be there. I want to be the person that is having where the feeling that I have now in the crowd from this excitement, this entertainment they're providing to me. I want to be there one day. And so from that moment on, to the end of 2015, all of 2016 onward, I wouldn't say exclusively on commentary, but like I would say probably about 95% of my efforts in this community were to do commentary for VGC. So I started a YouTube channel and I was streaming on Twitch. So like, I was putting all the effort in. I was traveling to every Premier Challenge. Luckily, my local scene in Brooklyn, Liberty Garden, had a stream and they had commentators, and I was a nobody, as I said, right? Back in the day, your credentials or your finishes, your placements at the events determined your, people's ability to listen to your opinions or give you a chance. And I was a nobody. I had no chances at that point. So it was very tough uphill battle at first. I'd drive out to Brooklyn. I'd sit there for every round. I'm like, all right, can I get one round? Can I get one round? It was like, okay, fine, you can get round 4 of this event. You can cast, because they didn't know who I was. To their credit, like to their benefit, they did. I was not a known person, right? A part of their community that they had been streaming the Premier Challenges for. And so, all right, you get random round 4, and like that's what I did the whole day. I spent 8 hours and I casted one event or one round, I should say, of it. And then I'd try again the next month and go, and they're like, okay, can I get like one top 8 match? Or all right, fine. Of all our top 8 matches, we'll give you one of them. Like just slowly building myself into that community, into that Liberty Garden commentary community, where at one point, credit to Jen, the tournament organizer and the stream runner, she did see the potential in me as a commentator. She was helping. She started giving me more opportunities for commentary and casting in Top Cut and casting the finals of a local and everything like that. So that was all of 2016 and 2017 to the end of 2017 when I went to my first grassroots regional with Critical Hit, with Adam Dorcott, Gabby Snyder, TJ, everybody. Well, that was their goal was to cover the regionals that Pokemon wasn't, because at the time not every regional was streamed like it is today. There would probably only be 4 or 5 total regionals streamed, and the rest of it was up to the community to cover on our own dime. So I think it's pretty much a record at this point for the official team. I covered 11 regionals from a grassroots perspective on commentary, out of my own dime, my own pocket, either driving or flying or paying for my own hotel and everything like that. I had done 11 grassroots regionals before I was picked up by the official commentary team at the beginning of 2020 for Collinsville that year. It was, and so I had worked from pretty much 2016 onward to the beginning of 2020. Was every day, every event, as much as I could, besides doing my real life job, which was tough because I was working nights and weekends and trying to balance Pokemon and trying to balance MLB. I spent those 4 straight years of just nothing but grassroots, nothing but grinding, trying to get onto that official stage, and we finally got there, Charlie.
Yeah. Wow, I can't imagine just the juggling act that you would have had to have subject yourself to in order to make that work. I mean, were there points where it was all just a bit much, where you were on the brink of saying, "Oh, you know what? I just can't squeeze this all in"?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would be working till 4 a.m. at MLB, Oof. Go home, and then have to wake up at 8 to drive into Brooklyn to get in time for the 10 a.m. of the Premier Challenge and everything. And there'd be times where I'm sitting there for just hoping to get an opportunity. I know I have the confidence in myself. Like I had a sports broadcasting background in college. All 4 years I worked for my school's radio station, covering baseball, basketball, football, volleyball, everything. Excuse me. So, and they didn't know I had that background. So, and how could they? I was an unknown person to them. So I was like, I just need that one chance. I need that one opportunity. Like there'd be times like I went the whole week and the whole Premier Challenge, I didn't get any chance, and I'd just be in the car, just like crying on the way home. It was like, I want this so badly. I just need the opportunity. I just need the chance. And I give so much credit to the Liberty Garden team for actually giving me that opportunity. There was one time, Charlie, that I had finally, I forget what it was, and my brother could probably tell the story better because he was trying to be a judge at that time. When I was doing commentary, he was trying to become a TO, right? In his thoughts, and it was like, okay, well, you can commentate and I'll judge all the events together. We'll still be able to travel together, we just don't have to play, right? Don't have to get rock slide flinched or deal with Mega Kangaskhan or anything like that. And so like I'd finally gotten the chance. It was like round 3 of a random event. And I remember my brother told me afterwards, he turned to the tournament organizer and he was like, watch this. And I feel like I crushed it. If I look back, it's been 9 years. I probably did not do that great of a job compared to where I am now as a commentator. But in the moment and compared to the rest of what I was seeing from the broadcasts on the grassroots level, I thought I did great. And that was when it clicked for Jen, and when it clicked for the whole Liberty Garden team. It was like, okay, this guy's got what it takes. We'll add him into it. So that was like a nice decisive moment for me. But those weeks leading up to it beforehand, or not just weeks, months, and an entire season, like there were a lot of doubts. That was like I never doubted my own skills. I doubted if I was going to be given the opportunity to show that I had what it took to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I can imagine the frustration that would have come with that, and the exhaustion, of course. But as soon as so you have that sort of epiphany where you're at the Boston World Championships and you're there in the finals and you're listening to the casting. As soon as you then cast for the first time yourself, does it immediately feel right? Like, yes, that's what's been missing all along, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I in the moment I had felt like I was, maybe this was just ignorance and arrogance all tied into one, right? Mm-hmm. But like, as you kind of have to believe in yourself in this industry, because nobody, if you don't believe in yourself, who will believe in you, right? So I had felt like, because of that sports background, because of that broadcasting experience that I had already had, where other people that were casting events just happened to be VGC players that were put in front of a microphone, right? And I don't mean to discredit it in any sense, but like, they were Pokemon players that were put in front of a microphone to talk about the Pokemon on screen, where I was a broadcaster with a passion for broadcasting, with the intention of doing commentary of Pokemon. I think it's a different perspective, right? And so overall, just keeping that moment in mind, or that experience in mind, that like I had the ability as a broadcaster that I could transfer over to Pokemon instead of sports.
Yeah. It's really interesting hearing you talk about that, Joe, because I think you and I are from a similar background when it comes to that sort of thing, approaching it from the performing element first and then with the Pokemon knowledge there too.
Yep.
Really fascinating. Yeah, okay, well, before we continue your story, it's time to discover what's going to be number 5 on your dream team with Noctowl, Lucario, Suicune, and Katana.
All right, so this is where I can finally get cool and add another cool guy to the team, and I'm adding Greninja to my team of 6. Now, it's not just because it's not him as the starter Pokemon, because, fun fact for you, Charlie, I am a Fire-type loyalist. All 9 generations, I have chosen the Fire First Partner Pokemon, as the official name is, right? And regardless of even if I like the Pokemon, I didn't like Delphox, I didn't like Emboar, I still chose them as my starter because, I made this decision 26 years ago, whatever, to pick Charizard, and dang it, I'm choosing the Fire-type every single generation. So even in X and Y, I did not use Greninja. However, I had a very... after I started playing VGC and all my college friends, we were literally like 10 of us all in a dorm room, just like trying to EV trade and shiny hunt together and like getting Protean Greninja. For those who don't remember, pre-nerf Protean Greninja, especially in singles, was quite the menace. And so trying to get that breeding to get the hidden ability of Protean and trying to get the shiny, I'll never forget where I was. I had it was in the summer of, I was up in school in the summer. I was taking, helping out with the summer program for college. And I was trying to shiny hunt for a shiny Greninja because I just think that black Greninja is just one of the coolest shinies of all time. And I had a very important family friend that I grew up in New Jersey. My parents worked for the Salvation Army. My mom worked in Jersey City at the Salvation Army. And she had a coworker they were essentially best friends. Like, they worked together. I think she was there for 16 years. They shared an office for like 14 of those 16 years. He was like a pseudo father figure when I was a kid, going to the Salvation Army every day, in the summer programs and everything. Like, he was just one of the greatest people. And I always remember, as I was shiny hunting, my mom called me, and he had passed away from kidney failure. He was dealing with kidney disease for many, many years and on dialysis and like just trying to make it work. And unfortunately, he had passed away. And it was like, I had 3DS in hand, not thinking anything was happening, just like thought my mom was checking in on me, right? Just a normal, casual conversation. And like, ever since then, I've always connected Greninja to that very important, father figure that family friend that I had in life that helped teach me how the world works and gave me so much advice and was one of the greatest people I've ever met. And so from then on, every time I've had a Greninja or I've used Greninja or used particularly shiny Greninja, I've always named it after that person, and I always have that strong connection. Like in the trading card game, there is a big Greninja chase card out of the set Twilight Masquerade where he's a Terra fighting Greninja, where I really love that card, and I always associate that card with this family friend as well. So I think if I was to have my ultimate team of 6, I couldn't not put Greninja out here out of appreciation, because that was the beginning of my VGC experience, right? I was getting a shiny Greninja so I could use it in VGC, and every time I look at Greninja, I think of that very important person in my life. So that's number 5 on the team.
Yeah, well, makes total sense for Greninja to be joining here and to have such a strong emotional connection to it as well. It's got to be here on the Dream Team, as you say. Thank you for sharing that with us, Joe. Well, wonderful. And actually, on your point about being a Fire-type loyalist, Joe, I'm the other way around. I think Fire I very rarely choose. I tend to be Water, actually. Okay. And then Fennekin and OHKO are the two that buck the trend there. So I'm a Delphox fan, but hey, we can hash this out another time. As to,
well, I was saying, you can join us, because I always chose the Fire-type. My brother has chosen the Grass-type starter every generation. Hey. So we need a friend to hop in on the water.
Perfect. There we go. You teach me and I'll teach you, as the saying goes. So, before we round out this Dream Team, Joe, we'll water Shuriken over from there now into, of course, the development of your casting journey through into esports generally.
Yes, so obviously, as I said, I had that moment at Boston Worlds where, I was watching the streams and everything like that before then, but being in the arena, being in the crowd, seeing how the commentators were able to elevate that experience. It was like that Machampion moment would not have been as cool. One, because if there was no commentary, you never would have had Dwee and Shady say the words Machampion, right? So we wouldn't have that moment like that. But like really, it was elevated from the commentary. And a lot of my traditional sports watching background, right? Like it's all of my history of watching sports on TV is attached to broadcasters that are announcing those games. And so when esports really started to take off in in the early 2010s, and particularly with League of Legends having their own weekly stream, their own official league, created by Riot and everything, is I was a massive League of Legends fan. Not really as a player, like I was playing the game, but I wasn't very good at the game. Like I wasn't playing ranked or anything, but I was just watching the LCS League Championship Series every Saturday and Sunday was like it was like going to church for me. Like I had to, you had to watch League at that point. It was like the craziest storylines, the best commentators, the best action, the drama and everything. Like League was the best. And I started branching out from League of Legends to watching other fighting game championships, like fighting game stuff like Evo and Street Fighter and other things like that, and learning just how competitive esports as a whole can work, and not just within League of Legends, or not just within Pokemon, which was the experience, that was the community that I was in, right? And so taking my sports broadcasting background and then my knowledge from watching the League of Legends official events with their commentators that were all professional, and trying to mimic the things that they did well and trying to implement that into my Pokemon commentary, I think that was a big turning point for me to understand that the esports ecosystem as a whole, to try to advance from not just trying to cast Pokemon, but to try to do esports and commentary as a career, I would say. And that still is the main goal. I still have another job outside of commentary, but ideally down the line I would hope to try to get my foot in the door on some other competitive games. And from 2013, 2014, 2015 to where we are now, Charlie, it's a completely different world in esports, and the amount of opportunities and the amount of competitive games that need commentators, right? There's always a new game that always has a new stream and always needs a new person to talk about their games on it. So I think that still is the goal, that still is the passion, and Pokemon is always number one and always will be number one, and the biggest goal I have to be a part of the Pokemon scene. But trying to transition my Pokemon, taking what was my sports background and putting it into Pokemon. Now the next step, the next hurdle to overcome, is taking this Pokemon background, Pokemon experience, and transitioning that into a full, esports commentary career.
Okay. So, at the same time, though, of course, you have talked about how much you love your job doing the video production side of things. Do you feel like you've had a good stint at that now, and so it's time for something new, or is it just more that your passion for doing esports is as great as it is?
Yeah, I would say the passion outweighs, and it's not that I haven't enjoyed the sports, because I have. I've been a part of really great experiences, and the positives outweigh the negatives of how big that industry can be and how cutthroat it can be. It just is. It's not, because of how seasonal it can be. Like those 6 seasons I spent at MLB, where they try to save money, and the reason they let you go on November 1st is because if you worked through November 15th, then you would have enough hours to be full-time, and then they'd have to pay you all around. Like, so they, typical company things like that. Like, they precisely, if you need X amount of hours to earn the benefits or have a full-time job, they'll give you X minus 1 amount of hours for the season so that they don't have to do it, right? And so there's a lot of, and I know from all my friends that I still talk to this day from our MLB days, like, they're trying to find jobs. They're always floating from one event to the next, and I think there's not as much consistency in that industry if you're not very fortunate to find the right spot or find the right company. So if I'm going to have to be bouncing around from one job to another anyway, I would prefer to do that within esports than within sports, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So Pokemon you've done a bit of League of Legends already. I think you've done a bit of Pokemon Unite as well, and you mentioned some One Piece trading card game too. I mean, what would be your dream from at this point for what game you'd want to go into next?
I think it would have to be League of Legends. I'd be lying to myself if I didn't say, like, my love of, obviously Pokemon's number one, but my love of the League of Legends universe and the game and the franchise and everything is is so high. And like I mentioned, it's all from the competitive aspect more than being a player. Like, being in I was in on League before Arcane, Charlie. Everybody loves Arcane and they love Jinx and Vi, but like, I have all the League of Legends books and the comic and the comic books, and knowing the lore of the universe and all of the champions and how much I appreciate that universe. That, like, if I were to do something outside of Pokemon, like, sure, I would love to be a part of fighting games, but, like, remember, there is a League of Legends fighting game on the horizon, right? So, like, there is ways to, hopefully, fingers crossed, try to still have that love of League and do some esports. That'd be my choice, I should say.
Sure. For anyone who's unfamiliar, can you just briefly summarize what League of Legends is?
Yeah, so League of Legends is an online game. Came out in, like, I think 2008 or 2009, I think, was the official launch. It's a 5v5 game where, if you've ever heard of, as Charlie mentioned, Pokemon Unite, which is 5 Pokemon battling against each other, and they level up and get new abilities and things like that. That is based off of and actually owned by the same company that owns League of Legends. It's a 5v5, blue side versus red side. The objective is your champions and use your 5 teammates to destroy the base, or the nexus as they call it, of the other team. Whoever's nexus explodes first loses the game, and there's like 170 different champions to choose from, all with unique abilities and different roles and archetypes that they all play. And there's just so much kind of, it's almost like team building in VGC now, like the amount of combinations that you can make together for the right quote unquote team compositions. The same you could say about, like, the right team build in Pokemon.
Fascinating. Thank you very much for that summary. So now, of course, going back to the Pokemon, you've commentated all sorts of events. How do you feel about it all now, given where you started and just how desperate you were to do it, and sometimes you would drive and just sit there and never actually do the commentating and then go home? What are your feelings about that now, that trajectory?
I would also like to add on, Charlie, to one of those 11 regionals I drove to was to Roanoke, Virginia. I drove like 7.5 hours to sit there backstage, never getting to cast around at that grassroots regional. The whole 7-hour ride home, just steaming. And I was like, man, I wasted a whole weekend of my life just to get one round, and I never got it. So, like, seeing those hardships in the moment, it's hard to know if it's going to pay off, right? And I was very fortunate that I did have that opportunity. I was given a chance for it to pay off, to work with the official team, where there are so many other people that are grinding, so many other people that have the passion, that want to be commentators, that have not been given that same opportunity. So I think it's very important for me to understand that in the moment when I'm upset. If I'm like, man, I would have loved to have cast this event, or man, I would have loved to, do this certain thing, and to, like, understand, like, at least I'm in the arena, right? At least I'm being given the opportunity to prove myself and to, present myself and to entertain people in Pokemon, where so many other people would kill to be in the position that I'm right now sad about, right? you know what I mean? It's all about that important perspective. So knowing now, here where I'm in 2025, if I were to go back to myself in 2015, leaving Boston and so, like, all right, it's going to be tough, but this is what you have to do. Like, it will pay off for you to get there. It's going to be tough to make it there, but once you do, you will be satisfied. Like, I would do it all over again. I would say, like, yes, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see that I can accomplish this, and I would definitely try to do it again.
Very inspiring things. And final thing, say on this point, Joe, I don't know if you remember, but actually at the London World Championships in 2022, you and I did meet very briefly.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised to hear that, because it was a very brief encounter, and at that point I was just like dipping my toe in. It was really from spectating that Worlds where it just sort of then started to get to where we are now. But yeah, it was one evening, I think it was the Saturday evening after the World Championships broadcast that day, and just had a very brief hello. And I think I said to you at that point, I'm really interested in casting, and you told me then about your experience of commentating sport as well, your experience that you'd had in sport. And so thank you very much, Joe, from me for being a person at that point who I could, get that advice from. And you were just talking about, there's so many people who'd love to be in that position. You just got to bear all those things in mind and take it from someone who was in that position at that point not too long ago that, thank you so much for your humanity and for your help in that situation.
Well, I'd say thank you, but I also feel terrible that I don't I don't remember. I feel like, I had this nice positive experience with you, but it's a one-sided memory. Oh wait, hold on, Charlie. Wait. Okay, it's coming back to me. I do remember you were very handsome that day. You were very entertaining. I remember the whole sequence now.
No worries at all, Joe. Yeah, to be honest, it was only in the run-up to recording this that I thought, hang on a second, we have actually met in person, but it was very brief, but wonderful. Okay, well now.
Well, I was just saying, I do think it's awesome though that you had. Can you explain that experience and you in the London crowd? Is it as similar to how I expressed my Boston experience?
That's a really good question. I think the short answer is yes. I think I had seen some of the broadcast. Of course, we just had the pandemic, and so there were a few regional broadcasts running up to the World Championships, but not as many as we have now. And so as soon as I seen that casting was a thing, I knew it was something that I had a skill set for, and I knew it was something that I wanted to do. And then being in the arena and just the scale and the production value of those London Worlds absolutely blew my mind. So it was more like a cementing thing rather than having my eyes being opened in that venue for the first time then. But absolutely, it just sort of stoked the fire, let's say, for sure. But it's now going to be time to round out this Dream Team, Joe. So what's going to be Pokemon 6?
All right. This was the easiest one to add on because it's the most important Pokemon to the trajectory of my life, to the trajectory of competitive Pokemon as a whole. And Pokemon number 6 is Pachirisu. I don't care if it's cliche. The little Pachirisu that could, right? Like the championship history video says, Pachirisu is definitely the most impactful Pokemon of my life because I was one of those Pachirisu kids that started playing VGC because of Seijun, because Pachirisu won the Worlds. Now, it was not the first event I watched, so I'm a little different there, where a lot of people who had never heard of VGC before, and they oh my god, Pachirisu did this, I want to play this too. I had already been watching, because from the start of X and Y, I had been getting into competitive Pokemon, and I remember watching US Nationals that summer, and then into Worlds in DC. So it wasn't the first. I was already aware of what VGC was, and I was already trying to figure out how to get into it competitively. But that was what cemented when Pachirisu won in the whole world. Now every gamer knew Pokemon and knew VGC, and everyone in my school and all my friends in college, we were all big Pokemon fans, sharing that news back and forth. Like, oh my god, it's the coolest thing that's ever happened. When Pachirisu won Worlds, that's what it was like. All right. Now, sure, I love League of Legends. I love sports. I love all these other things. But like, now I'm full in on Pokemon. Like, so I cannot not have Pachirisu on this list because that little Pachirisu that could change the trajectory of my life.
Wow. Yeah, for anyone who's unfamiliar, Pachirisu, very cute little Pokemon who no one really expected much of competitively, but then the 2014 World Championships, it was on the winning team because of the niche it filled on that particular team. So yeah. Pachirisu was the one that opened the door, and it really, Joe, you've done really well not to mention that Pokemon up to this point of the recording, having gone through your VGC history, given how pivotal it was. But Pachirisu was the one that put... you already love Pokemon, but really just unlocked it.
It's the one that made me realize that, like, you could, the Karen quote, you could win with your favorites.
Yeah.
Like, you could make this work. So I was out there trying all the silly combinations. I was going to bring the next Pachirisu, right? All that stuff. And I will say, in 2018, at Nashville Worlds, I actually did get to meet Seijun. He was in the crowd. It was after the World's Finals, and they're starting to wrap up and everything. And I was there with my buddy Jason Krell, who I was staying with for the weekend. And like I was just way too nervous. It might as well have been Brad Pitt seeing Seijun. It might as well have been like the most famous person you've ever seen in your life. Just Seijun just sitting there like a regular person in his chair. And Jason had the confidence. He was like, "Just go say hi. Just go say hi." I was like, "I can't do it. I was literally frozen. I was too nervous to say hi to him." And so then Jason, like, he grabbed his attention. He was like, "Seijun," like, and then he saw him. And obviously, there's somewhat of a language barrier, but he understands English, just kind of difficult. So I tried to just very simply explain the appreciation for what he did with Pachirisu and like how it changed my life and yada yada yada. And then Seijun hugged me, bro. He literally was like, and he gave me a hug with that story, and I was like, "This is the greatest. I could die right now, and it's never gonna get any better than Seijun hugging me for thanking him for winning Worlds."
Wow. Well, incredible story, and wonderful that you did get to meet Seijun. So then, Joe, this means that your overall dream team is Noctowl, Lucario, Suicune, Kartana, Shiny Greninja, and Pachirisu. So, really interesting mix here. Of course, we've got the very fearsome, and we've got the very cute. We've got a span of multiple generations, and they really represent your Pokemon story so well, going all the way back to, what kicked it all off really with Noctowl, as well as your dawning of VGC, as well as what your favourite Pokemon became. But now it's time to ask you, Joe, if you were to choose one of these Pokemon to be your partner Pokemon, which would it be?
Ooh. I know my friend's gonna kill me for not having Charizard on the list of 6 too. I'm already ready for the comments. So for my friends to not have Charizard here, I think it's got to be Lucario. I mean, for so much of my life, it was my favorite Pokemon, and it was so important. Like I love Mega Evolution's my favorite mechanic that they've ever made within Pokemon, and Mega Lucario as a whole was so cool. And you got Karina gave you a Mega Lucario to use in X and Y in the playthrough. So cool. In the anime and everything like that, and I'm so excited that Megas are coming back that like I think of these 6 I would have to have Lucario.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and as you say, very much also an element of just when we happen to be recording this episode with Pokemon Legends ZA on the horizon, which is going to be reintroducing Mega Evolution. So Lucario, for that reason and for so many others, makes total sense as your partner Pokemon. And now, slightly different kind of question for you, Joe. If you were a Pokemon, what do you think you would be?
Oh, wow. If I was a Pokemon, I think there's like the confident answer, and you could be like, there's like a realistic answer, right? You could say like confident. Oh, I'm like Salamence, I'm Metagross, I'm Tyranitar. I'm just like a huge powerhouse. When in reality, I'd probably be like Throw or something, or like Bouffalant, or like I don't think I'd be given the opportunity to be one of the cool Pokemon. I think my middle ground, because I'm so talkative, I'm so boisterous, and everyone, whenever they hear me, they're like, "Why are you always yelling?" It's like, I'm not, or "Why are you mad?" Like, I'm not mad, I'm not yelling, I'm just passionate, and it comes out loudly with how I express it, right? So I think probably Loudred or Exploud, I guess probably that line, just because of how loud I can be.
They're really, really good answers, and interestingly, Shea Burton, trading card gamecaster, who was the second episode of the show, I believe, in fact, also decided that they would be Loudred or Exploud, one of that line. And of course, you are both very much hype casters, so that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, it makes total sense. What do you all think? Do you agree that of all the Pokemon there are, Joe would be an Exploud? Let us know in the comments. We'd be fascinated to read. And speaking of you all, it's now time for your community questions. I posted online, as I always do, asking for questions for my guests. Thank you so much for submitting them. I apologise, I won't have time to feature all of them, and I apologise if I mispronounce any of your names or handles, but some fantastic questions here. To kick things off, Buzzer Bob TV would like to know, what's your advice to anyone who wants to start their journey into casting?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, obviously, understandably so, and I think particularly with me, I think one of the aspects, and I see people come up to me at events that a lot of VGC people saw the grind that I was on, right? That the amounts of effort that I put in, and so I've had people not even just asking like how they can get in, but like also saying they're happy for me, right? They're happy that I was able to accomplish this dream because they saw how much effort I was putting in. And so like my first piece of advice for people is, it is not easy. like, I think there's a lot of people that out here, like, they think it would be cool to be a commentator, right, Charlie? Like, and I'm sure people have come up to you, like, they're just casual, like, yeah, it'd be cool to be a caster. Like, I think I could also do it. And it's like if that's your mentality, then it's not going to work out for you. Like, you can't want to cast to cast VGC because you think it'd be cool to cast. Like, you have to want it more than everybody else. Like, you have to be willing to, like I did, and now it's a whole different world now because we have a lot more online and a lot more streaming capabilities than back in the grassroots days. Like, you had to be willing to put the work in. You had to be willing to work harder and than everybody else and go to events that people weren't willing to go to, right? To give yourself that chance to be seen, that chance, that one opportunity that you need. So my first piece of advice would be, like, you have to want it more than everybody else, because everybody wants to be, you know, a professional basketball player or something, right? But, like, the ones that do make it work, they're the ones that put the effort in to make it to be professionals in that sport. And I think that's one thing that, I don't know if from your experiences when people ask you that, I think sometimes people are missing they need to want it more than anything to make it out. You can't just casually feel like it'd be cool to be a caster, right?
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic advice. I think it's also sort of, to pick up on something you said there, it sort of looks deceptively simple in a way.
Yes.
It just looks like, here are a couple of people talking about the game. I play the game, therefore I think I could do a good job of this as well. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of raw materials there for people to be able to get into casting if you have that mindset. But it's also part of the magic of it, I think, is, you know, making it look easy and effortless, and just, you know, a well-oiled machine. And that's just one of the things. And there's obviously so much more that goes into it as well. Just
a quick add-on for an actual commentary advice thing. If people have already taken a step, they do want it, they do want to succeed. My physical, like, talking advice, and I'm sure you know this too, is I would say when you're doing commentary, your sentences, your structure, it should be could, not should. Whether it's either play-by-play or color casting, but particularly in color casting, everybody wants to show that they're the smartest person in the room. They know they were going to click Swords Dance before the players knew they were going to click Swords Dance, right? And you want to show off that you knew what the plays were going to be. And so my advice for actual verbiage is you say they should, or they could click Trick Room. They could go for a Double Protect. They could go for a Rock Slide Flinch, right? Instead of saying they should switch into Incineroar and click, whatever, Close Combat in the other slot, or they should expect to protect and attack into the other spot, because that's where you get yourself in trouble. One, if they don't click what you said they should, now you look silly if it worked out for them because you look incorrect. And then two, even if they click something else, you're making the player look bad by saying they should do something that they're not doing. So I think a lot of players, and I've helped other casters, if you eliminate should from the conversation and they could go for this play, you give yourself more wiggle room for that storyline and through the match to develop.
Yeah, really good practical advice. Thank you very much for that, Joe. Now, a question from Leia. What part of being an official Pokemon caster is your favorite and why?
I think it's hard to beat the moments like when you're in the arena, right? When you're at the desk and you're talking and you hear the crowd with a big critical hit or a big, Draco Meteor miss, or like those moments are. Until, like, I always think one of the championship history videos we made of Kyogre wins the raffle, where Aaron Traylor had a 2% chance to win that game, and he needed a double protect and a 10% play rough miss and everything to go his way. But you play to your outs. You don't quit. And like the crowd, that was our first post-COVID event. So it's still a smaller crowd, but like the excitement that crowd had. Like, it's to this day I still get chills thinking about it. I think about some of the biggest matches that I've cast where the crowd is interacting and like you feed off of that energy, and it's hard to beat that from a commentary perspective. Like, those are the biggest things. Those are the moments that I'm always chasing that Machampion high or that Pachirisu high that the other casters got to. But like, honestly, now that I'm older, like I feel like my favorite part of like is hanging out with the casters at like the Sunday night in the cool down. We had the event. We had the crazy. Oh, what about this random guy that came up to you in the bathroom? What about this silly interaction that happened? Oh, can you remember in round 4 when we couldn't choose what match to to choose, and then this interaction? Like those moments with some of my best friends on the planet, like sitting in a hotel lobby till 4 in the morning, just having fun, talking Pokemon with some of my favorite people. I think there's nothing that beats that.
Yeah. What I love about your answer there is that you've got the two extremes of when the energy is very high and when the energy is much lower and more mellow. Yeah. Well, wonderful, and how lucky we are to be able to experience both of those. Now, Joe, I'm going to ask you a question here that you asked of my very first guest on the show, Lee Provost. Because it was so good, and it's always stuck in my mind over the past more than a year of doing this show. And I have been fascinated for all of that time to get your perspective on this. So I'm going to quote this word for word. So, you're playing for England in the World Cup final. It's tied 0-0 in the 92nd minute, and you stand up to the line for a penalty kick. Which direction are you kicking? Left, right, or straight down the middle? Also, Machamp is the goal.
I'm so proud of that question, honestly. To this day, like I think I still bring it up with Lee, and he was stumped. We had him in a tough spot there, Charlie. He did not know what to do. I think from memory, if my memory serves me correct, I believe Lee said he kicks it straight down the middle and hopes that Machamp overthinks it. I think Lee is throwing. I think that's an awful decision by Lee. He's going to cost England the championship. It's not coming home if Lee does that, right? As the phrase goes. I think clearly you go bottom left or bottom right because you've got the extra arms up top. If you go top left or top right, he has the additional arms to try to get there. And he's got the big, bulky top body. It's going to be harder for Machamp to dive bottom in one direction. He has to call the direction, and 2, he has to physically get down to the ground. He's a big guy as a Machamp. So I think I'm probably going bottom left because I'm a righty, so I'm going to go towards that. And I'm scoring right in Machamp's face.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I think straight down the middle is a bold call from Lee, but listen, we can workshop that idea with him on another occasion. Also, Machamp isn't a very fast Pokemon, so I think going for one of those low, it would have to maneuver himself over there. It'd be tough. I'm with you there. Yeah, and I think the crowd is going to go wild, and I think it is coming home. Wonderful. And now, thank you again for that incredible question, and it holds a candle to being maybe the best question that's ever been asked.
That makes me so proud that you remember it because it was such a fun. I was like, let's help. All right, Charlie's getting started. He's one of my favorite people on the planet, and Lee. Like, let's get a silly little question in on the conversation. It still has impact to this day.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you for giving us your 2 cents on that. The community questions metagame has evolved right here, right now in Chazingdra Chats. Thanks so much for all your questions there. If you'd like to submit a question for a future guest on the show, then you can find my handles at Chazingdra across X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. That's where I post the call-outs for questions for my guests. I'd love to hear what you'd love to hear. All right then, Joe, so we've heard a lot about you up to now, and you've given us a little taste about what's next for you in terms of, where you want to go with the next esports, maybe you want to get involved in, but thinking more broadly than that, what is next for you?
So currently I actually just moved earlier this year up to upstate New York, so I left my humble New Jersey roots finally, and I work for a card hobby company where we live stream open Pokemon packs, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm very fortunate I get to rip Pokemon packs for a living, right? So that's pretty cool, and it's really been entertaining. My hope is to help build this brand, build this company up in the Pokemon competitive Pokemon sphere, and who knows, maybe that transfers to other card games as well. Obviously, I said I have an interest in the upcoming fighting game from League of Legends, but League of Legends also is making a card game that's coming out this fall called Riftbound. So maybe having some of my One Piece commentary experience, transition that over to Riftbound. But I mean, for now, the plan is to stay focused, to stay grinding on Pokemon. Right? There's always ways to improve. There's always ways to put myself in a better position to be chosen for events, right? Make it so that they'd be making a mistake to not have you on an event, right? To like your presence and your ability as a commentator makes the production as a whole better. So that's my focus always. Is Pokemon's always number one for me, and however I can travel the world and get to continue casting Pokemon on top of all my other esports interests and esports ventures. Pikachu's always gonna be number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a mindset that served you so well throughout your life, and very exciting times indeed. All right then, Joe. So now, final question for you. Looking back from now as a Pokemon commentator, someone who's looking to branch out into other games as well, all the way back to the young Joe who beat Pokemon Yellow an ungodly number of times and was playing through those original games with their brother and all of the ones up to now, or receiving the second game in the pair. What advice would you give to that younger you?
I don't even know, Charlie. I mean, like, I don't know if it's like healthy. I don't know if it's like healthy advice. If I had this time machine, but it was like you just got to get through it. Like in the moment right now, it feels so tough, and it feels like you're not going to get through it. And it feels, whether that's from school or whether that's from the commentary, route. Like at any point in my life, in the moment, the self-doubt, the feelings that like you're not going to make it out. Like you just have to you just have to have the confidence in yourself that you will do this. Like I always try to give my best at everything. Like I don't put efforts in things that I don't believe that I can accomplish, right? And so once I get that in my head, I do think I can accomplish this. And like in those moments of doubt, like I'm not going to give myself the confidence that it's going to be easier or that you're going to make it, but like you just have to know that the times will get better over time, which is very tough at that moment to try to tell yourself as you're experiencing those things in the moment. But if I had the fortune to know, like, all right, I'm going to make it out better on the other side, I think that would be that'd be very helpful advice.
Yeah, wise advice for us all, I think, when it's so hard to see the wood for the trees in those moments. And also, of course, as we grow up, we just get more of an understanding of how the fullness of time will affect things. But fantastic. Thank you very much, Joe. And the chat does not end there, because now we'll be getting into Joe Brown's Rapidash Round. 15 or so minutes of bonus questions that Joe has not prepared for. And as with all my guests, there's so many more things I want to take a deeper dive into. Some of the favourite memories from events Joe has casted, and favourite events that Joe has casted. Hidden talents and fun facts about Joe. Dream dinner party guests as well, and so much more. If you want to hang out with me and Joe for a little bit longer, then you can become a YouTube channel member, where you also get access to all sorts of other exclusive perks, or you can head to my Patreon to buy the products individually and support me directly as a creator. Fundamentally, though, I really appreciate the fact that you've watched or listened to this episode in its entirety. But if you want to hang out with me and Joe for a little bit longer, then that option is available to you, and the link is in the description below. But Joe, for now, thanks so much for joining me. On a personal level, it's been wonderful to actually be able to hang out for a little bit finally, but also on a broader sense, thank you so much for all of your honesty and your openness. We're all taking a huge amount away from this episode, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. I've been a big fan ever since day one, question one of the viewer questions, right? with Lisa, I've always been, I'm just like refreshing my Discord, waiting for that message from Charlie to come through. And today it finally had, so I'm very happy to be here.
No, thank you so much for being on the show, Joe. It's been a pleasure. And if people want to keep up with you online, where can they find you?
You can see me on social media, on any of my tags on Twitch or Twitter or Instagram or anything. It's XEMINAN. That's XEMINAN. That's my gamer tag. But obviously you can see Joe Brown. Yeah, the 2025-2026 season, I'll be doing more commentary events, so you can always say hi to me there, say hi to Sierra. We always have our OHKO stickers on hand, ready to give out to anybody, so come say hi.
Yeah, wonderful. It's been fantastic to feature you both on the show by this point. Yeah, and now time for some YouTube spiel from this side of things, everybody. I think you knew it was coming. If you enjoyed, once more, please do like and subscribe. It would really mean a huge amount, and it goes such a long way. And drop a comment too, because Joe, as with all my guests, has given us so much food for thought. And there are approaching 70 episodes of the podcast at this point, with a broad range of guests, not just in the competitive video games scene, but also the trading card game Go Unite, as well as beyond competitive, more casual players, shiny hunters, people who do challenge runs of Pokemon, the works. There's bound to be something for everyone to spread the word about the show. You can use the hashtag 6Pokemon1Lifestory, and also my channel, I stream competitively, shiny hunting as well as Nuzlocke and other challenge runs. I do silly Pokemon flavoured comedy skits, working on my European International Championships video right now where I was a caster, and there's so much more to look forward to too. I'm at Chazingdra on YouTube and of course on all the socials too, X, Blue Sky, Instagram and TikTok. Episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday. I've got my Discord community link below too, as well as my email if you want to get in touch. Right then, Joe, so with that being said, it's now time to get into your Rapidash round. So if you're not joining us over on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member for that, then it's goodbye from Joe.
You should definitely, because I'm excited. I'm excited for the Rapidash.
Thank you very much, Joe. That is goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, where there'll be another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. All right then, Joe, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
I'm excited that I don't even know what direction they're coming from. Like I'm ready to get caught off guard. I'm excited for this.
Okay, great. Well, you know a few of them. I teased a few already. So why don't we start with those? We will start with favorite events you've casted and favorite memories from those events.
Ooh, favorite. It's so hard. It's either London or NAIC 2022. I think I'll probably lock in